Hello, Wesley Chapel. I wanted to share a very important update about specials and what we're going to be doing with specials in the upcoming weeks. As you know, the board met this week and they made some pretty big decisions for us here at Wesley Chapel and all across Union County, with students returning for 2 days a week, and eventually moving to Plan A in about 4 weeks. So, within this 4 week section is what I want to focus on today and talk about how we're going to work through this transition and what are the big things that are that's happening in this transition are specials. And I'm going to share with you what's happening with specials. So here we go. In-person specials are returning. We've been doing this virtual thing for about 6 weeks, and it's been going about as well as we can make it happen. We've been learning Canvas and getting those lessons out there, and students have been submitting things, and we've had a great time looking at these submissions and communicating with students virtually, and that's been great. But it's time to shift, and it's time to see these kids face to face. I have missed them. I have my music room back, and so the kids will be coming to the music room. They'll be traveling to the gym for PE. They'll be going to the art room for art, and they'll be doing some outside or inside activities for SEL. And we'll get into more detail about what those are later on. So a master schedule came out at the beginning of the year, and that was a schedule that you could follow at home or we could follow here about when specials would be during the day. That time is going to remain the same. However, the students will be traveling to specials now, so that is different. And there will be certain classes attended in person and certain ones that will still need to be held virtually. If you are at school and you have a special, you don't have to do that special virtually. And I'll say that a couple more times through the presentation just to be sure that we're getting that. It was set up in a way that on Tuesdays you would do art, and Wednesdays you would do music, and Thursdays you would do PE. Well, it's not going to be that way anymore as far as the virtual component is concerned. It's pretty much whatever special you didn't get at school, take care of it virtually at home. That's how that works. And so the class cohorts, which, we had most grade levels had 4 teachers, and they were split into 2 teams. Well, we'll still be seeing those cohorts kind of together. I'll explain this a little more in detail in a few minutes, but we're going to see individual classes when they come to us. Okay, moving on. Okay, like you heard me say earlier, our course offerings are pretty much the same. There has been one change to it. Art, music, PE, and SEL, which is social emotional learning. That is a time for students to actually just be able to socialize and talk with one another, because that's really needed, especially with all the isolation we've kind of come out of. It's important for the kids' development to have some social emotional learning time. So those are our 4 specials. Now you might notice, what about enrichment? Because we were doing that on Mondays and Fridays. Well, sadly, enrichment Monday and Friday courses will no longer be actively updated. That's just because we're having to do in-person lessons and virtual lessons. We don't have time to put in 2 more courses and to be able to manage that effectively to our best ability. So those courses are not going to be updated. We're not pulling them down because there's some really good stuff up there. We're going to leave that on Canvas for you to access and go back and watch, and that's perfectly fine. But we're not going to be putting anything new up there, at least during this 4-week time period. It may be longer, but during this 4-week time period, we will not be doing any enrichment activities. That's starting next week. There will be one coming out tomorrow because I'm recording this on September 24th. On September 25th will be our final Friday enrichment. I think Mr. H is running that one. And the lessons from Miss Long and Miss Landsey, because they want to get face-to-face time, they'll be putting their lessons in with some of the SEL specials times as we get to that. I'm not sure if any of that's going to be happening during the 4 weeks, but that's what that time is designed for. Now, we love the idea of enrichment and getting to teach these special things and some skills maybe outside of our normal content area, and we would like to revisit that again. We used to use WASEP to do that, and then we started using enrichment to do it. So we're kind of brainstorming some other ideas to maybe bring some of that back into the fold and be able to make that happen again. But for right now, we've got enough on our plate. Okay, so let's keep moving on here. Okay, so what happens next? Well, classroom teachers are just now getting this information, so they're compiling detailed schedules to send home to the families, so you know exactly where, when, and you'll be going for specials and everything. And just like talking about the cohorts with the teams, we've kind of done that with specials a little bit. We're not combining classes, but we are combining sets of days. So the PE and music will work closely together, and art and SEL will work closely together. And you'll see how that works in a few minutes when I actually give you a very simplified schedule of how this is going to work out. Okay, so it's important to know what you're going to be walking into, right? Which lessons do we need to do virtually? I mean, think about those kids that are at home Wednesday and Thursday. They need to know what their schedule is and which specials they're going to get, that week. So, yeah, because for PE you're going to need the appropriate footwear. For art, you don't want to wear your fanciest clothes because they could get messed up with some of the art supplies. Well, next week, these teachers' classes will be attending music and or PE for the next 2 weeks. Okay? So for the next 2 weeks, these teachers, their classes will be getting PE and music. And that is Berry, Leahy, Disher, Cox, Halfliger, Munchler, Kowalowski, Newman, Sitzer, Mr. Ottaway, Stein, and Poor. So that's 2 weeks of PE and music for your in-person specials. Below that, these teachers' classes will be attending art and SEL for the next 2 weeks. That's Miss Livesey, Kincaid, DeBold, Davenport, Oakes, Miss Ottaway, Newell, Plyler, Handog, Hobson, Steele, and Gallowich. So all those will be attending art and SEL as their in-person specials for the next 2 weeks. Now, after 2 weeks of this, those groups are going to flip-flop. Okay? Everybody that's in that second group will be going to music and PE, and everybody in that first group will be going to art and SEL. Okay? You might have to go back and watch that and listen to that a couple times to be sure that's clear. I had to think about it too. Actually, I've had to edit this a couple times to put it into a wording that I think makes sense. So I know it can be a little confusing, but that's what's happening for the next 4 weeks. Once we get it rolling, it won't seem nearly as confusing, and hopefully you guys are starting to understand it and grasp it quicker than I did. Okay, so in conclusion, next Tuesday the in-person specials will begin face-to-face, and students will attend 2 in-person specials while at school. And halfway through this 4-week period, students will attend the other 2 specials. And then Plan A begins on October 26th. There's more to come on it once we get a better idea of how many kids are going to be doing Plan D and how we're going to handle all the scheduling and where everybody's going to go and all that stuff. So more is going to come on Plan A. But right now, we're just getting this little Plan B modified thing here figured out. Modified as meaning 2 days a week. And hopefully we can make that work. The specials team, we are very excited about next Tuesday. So guys, have a good weekend and take some time to process all this stuff. And I'll talk to you later.